should you work for another creator to learn the ropes? Cheridet was a video editor and a virtual assistant for other YouTubers. Did that stop her reaching her goal of becoming a creator? 10 years later, Cheridet now has over 115 million views and over 400,000 subscribers. Here's how she did it.
I was always sort of doing YouTube then in the background as a hobby because I had no idea what I was doing. So I started off from there and it just sort of, I just kept growing it, and you know, it was fun, it was nice, I was building community, but I never took it stupidly seriously. That's kind of where it sort of led me, but mainly it has been a hobby all that time. So it wasn't really gigs on the side until I fully left the supermarket, and that's when I went to video editing first. There is definitely a difference between working traditionally and YouTube. YouTube is a whole different ball game, and you need to know so more different information to be able to edit a video well, whereas traditionally it's nothing like that. I mean, you watch TV and it's so different to then watching a YouTube video. It's just, there's no comparison. They're just different styles completely.
And at what point would you start to take it a little more seriously? The idea of like, oh, like this creator thing. You mentioned you were at the supermarket for about 6 years, but I'm sure it didn't take you 6 years before you were like, oh my God, like this is something. How long before you were like, like maybe this could be the path?
I wasn't sure, to be honest with you. I always sort of, as I got further with YouTube and I started growing a little bit more, I might have been about 30,000 at that point. I just thought maybe, but I couldn't ever get any traction. I could get some kind of views coming in, and I was part of a series with bigger YouTubers like sometimes, or I had a lot of different friends that were bigger than me essentially, but I could never get any traction because that was back when I was really doing more Minecraft stuff, and clearly it wasn't the right Minecraft stuff to get me going. So I always thought, yeah, that'd be cool, you know, if I could grow, but it almost seemed like a really far distant dream that I'd never get to. When I left the supermarket, I keep wanting to say the name of them and I'm not. When I left them, I was really done with them at that point. I was just a number. So instead I was making sure, and I was trying to build myself clients for video editing work. And that's how I eventually left that job. I made sure I had 2 clients lined up that I essentially could, you know, getting paid more, and it was stable work. That's kind of more my focus at that point. And I was probably more doing Twitch at that time. I think it was just easier to do Twitch than I was able to upload on YouTube.
So a lot of creators that are kind of figuring things out in that build phase in the very beginning are like maybe looking for odd jobs just to try and make more revenue and income. Like, how did you get in front of these 2 other channels or 2 other clients to be able to offer your services? Because it almost seems like the perfect fit, because you're getting to edit on the type of content that you want to create anyway. And maybe were you learning from them as well? Like, what was it like for you?
Oh yeah, if you're a video editor, every time you have a new client, you learn something different. You need to keep like building up that sort of like base of like knowledge and skills. It was a bit of a weird one because I like the whole variety thing. I wasn't just recording Minecraft and indie games and horror games and stuff. It was also things like Roblox. I already was part of sort of like a community that would sometimes we'd all, you know, hang out and play Roblox games together and record. Fortunately for me, some of them were bigger, and by the time I was trying to sort of get out of where I was, I'd occasionally put tweets up and say, you know, video editing, blah, blah, blah. I'm available. I need clients. Please give me a chance. So I kind of got lucky that they already knew me from this sort of like Roblox circle, and they gave me a chance. It was like a sort of like team of 2, and yeah, sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, that was a bit too lucky. Like, I don't know how I managed that, but yeah, they gave me a chance, and then from there I got my next clients sort of like, oh gosh, was it a year after? Or so then I moved from them 2 to then another client because they'd already seen my work again from that same Roblox community, and then life happened with her, and then I went on to my last client as well. At least for video editing ways, and again from that same Roblox group. So I got very lucky with all of that, and definitely it was just an amazing opportunity to work with them because I learned so much, and a lot of it I applied eventually to running my own channel, and that communication, just I learned so much from them. So I was still further down. I wasn't really like, you know, that high up with stuff. I was definitely struggling for a long time, that kind of, I think 45 or 50 mark, and I just couldn't get any further at that point. And that was when I was working more as like a virtual assistant. That was what I was doing last before YouTube. I'm trying to think honestly, because it just took me so long. Like I said, I mean, I started my channel sort of quite, you know, some years ago now, and it was always just hobby. But so I've been on this journey for quite a while. I mean, my channel's nearly 10 years old. so it has been a while. But yeah, definitely I must have been about 45 or something like along those lines, and then that's when my channel started blowing up, but I was definitely stagnant for quite a while.
Do you think you have to have a strong sense of editing yourself before you hire an editor? Or do you think you can outsource it without actually having done it yourself?
I think it's better to give it a try. I think for you to understand the process a lot more, I think it's definitely better if you're giving it a go first and not just sort of completely giving up. I think if you're really, really struggling now and you think, actually, I really don't have time, but if I could create this content, that could be another thing that's getting me out there, then as long as the price is right as well and you communicate well with them, you get on. And it works both ends. And yeah, I think it's definitely worth it, but I wouldn't be, okay, do that first. I think you need to do it. You need to try it, because you're never going to know what really truly goes into it. And you're not going to learn by your mistakes that way either. And there's a lot to make, so you got to make them.
I want to ask you if you have any advice for new creators, specifically women that are in this space. It's like a very male dominated space. And for women who are like just starting out, is there any advice you'd have for them as they're navigating journey?
That is such a big topic, isn't it, really? And it's such a huge one. So, right, okay, so when I was younger, my one of my favorite hobbies was playing games. But obviously back then, I'm 31 now, back then it wasn't really a thing. Like, a lot of my friends really didn't play at all. And actually, when I started to get a little bit older, I actually realized I was kind of getting taken the mick out of, because I'd say, oh yeah, I play games too, and they'd kind of sort of be like, oh, you don't know what you're on about. I felt embarrassed, and then it wasn't until I started this YouTube journey that I felt like I belonged somewhere. The one thing I will say is don't feel embarrassed, because at some point somewhere you will find a place, because there are so many communities on YouTube and just in general online, or Twitter or Discord, you name it. Like, there are so many, so you will find a place somewhere. There will be a community for you, and I love that. So it's don't be afraid, because you're not alone. There are so many of us.
If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. Let us know what you thought in the comments, because your feedback helps us to guide this content, as well as what's the next area of interest we're getting into.